Hello and welcome. This video will be an overview of some of the essential understandings in Strand B, number in the primary grades. Understanding how numbers work is foundational to many aspects of mathematics. Recognizing and understanding number properties is foundational to developing an understanding of branches of mathematics such as arithmetic and algebra. In the number strand, as students progress through grades 1 to 8, they learn about different types of numbers and how those numbers behave when various operations are applied to them. In the OCDSB scope and sequence, we are focusing on strand B, whole numbers. Here you can see the specific expectations that the scope focuses on at this time, with the understanding that these specific expectations and subsequent expectations will be revisited frequently throughout the year. This video will focus on counting B1.5 and representing B1.1. In the new digital math curriculum, educators have access to amazing supports. It is highly suggested that before starting any new topic in the OCDSB scope and sequence, you take the time to read the key concepts for each specific expectation you will be covering. Many of the mathematical concepts that students learn in the first few years of school are closely tied to counting. The variety and accuracy of children's counting strategies and the level of their skill development in counting are valuable indicators of their growth in mathematical understanding in the primary years. Here we can see the specific expectations for counting in grades 1 to 3. In grade 1, count to 50 by 1s, 2s, 5s, and 10s. Grade 2, count to 200, including by 20s, 25s, and 50s. Grade 3, count to 1,000, including by 50s, 100s, and 200s. In order to unpack counting, it is essential that educators have a clear understanding of the counting principles. The main counting principles, as outlined in the new curriculum, are one-to-one correspondence, stable order, conservation principle, order irrelevance, and cardinality. One-to-one correspondence is the idea that each object being counted must be given one count and only one count. In the early stages, it is useful for students to tag each item as they count it and move the item out of the way as it is counted. Stable order is the idea that the counting sequence always stays consistent. It's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and not 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. The principle of conservation is the idea that the count for a set group of objects stays the same no matter whether the objects are spread out or are close together. Order irrelevance is the idea that the counting of objects can begin with any object in a set and the total will still be the same. And finally, cardinality is the idea that the last count of a group of objects represents the total number of objects in the group. A child who recounts when asked how many candies are in the set that he or she has just counted does not understand cardinality. It is not necessary for students in the primary years to know the names of these concepts. Rather, we're providing them so you, as the educator, can observe students while they're engaged in counting activities. When thinking about instructional strategies for counting, students in grade 1 may require opportunities to experience counting to 50 in engaging and relevant situations in which the meaning of the number is emphasized and a link is established between the numbers and their visual representation. Especially important is the development of an understanding that the numeral in the decades place represents 10 or a multiple of 10. Opportunities to engage in play-based problem solving that involves counting strategies is also really important. They need opportunities to participate in games that emphasize strategies for counting, and these games should involve numbers in the decades whenever possible. For example, games using two-digit numbers, maybe on a hundreds chart. It is also important to build counting activities into everyday events, such as lining up at the door or getting ready for home. Students need the opportunities to use counters and other manipulatives, hundreds charts, and number lines in meaningful ways and on many different occasions. It's also really important for students in grade 1 to build up their understanding of 5 and 10 as anchors for thinking about all other numbers. In grades 2 and 3, students would benefit from many different instructional strategies, such as opportunities to experience counting beyond 100 and higher in engaging and relevant situations in which the meaning of the numbers is emphasized, using songs, chants, and stories that emphasize the counting sequences of 1s, 2s, 5s, and 10s, as well as 20s, 25s, and 50s from different points within that sequence. It's also important for them to engage in problem solving that involves counting strategies and to participate in games that emphasize the strategies for counting. Just like grade 1, building counting activities into everyday events is super important. Maybe doing a fundraising for charity or preparing for a field trip. Using counters, other manipulatives, hundreds charts, number lines in meaningful ways, and especially to identify those patterns in the counting sequence. And finally, providing support to help students recognize the various counting strategies for counting larger numbers. When we look at representing number, we're looking at a number as an abstract representation of a very complex concept. Numbers are represented by numerals, and a numeral can be used in many different ways. For instance, consider this sentence. John, who is in grade 1, is inviting 15 children to his 7th birthday on January 5th, 2018 at 2 o'clock. Think about the different ways that number is used just in this statement. Here we can see the specific expectations for reading and representing numbers in grades 1 to 3. In grade 1, we're going to read and represent whole numbers up to and including 50 and describe various ways that they are used in everyday life. In grade 2, we're reading, representing, composing, and decomposing whole numbers up to and including 200, and then reading, representing, composing, and decomposing whole numbers, including 1,000 in grade 3. A few key points that can be made about representation in the primary years is that a number represents the number symbol, the number word, placement in a series of counts, placement on a number line, a place value position, and a quantity of objects. The numeral 1, depending on its placement, can mean 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. A very important aspect of understanding number is the connection between the symbol for a number or part of a number, for example, a fraction or a decimal, and what that symbol represents with reference to quantity, position, or magnitude and size. An important aspect of representation is learning how to read and write numerals and connect numerals with written and spoken words for numbers. Again, I will refer back to the teacher supports offered in the new math curriculum. In order to properly unpack the specific expectation B1.1, it is essential for educators to read through the key concepts for their grade as part of their planning process to make appropriate instructional decisions. Here we can see grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Thank you for your time, and as always, if you have any questions, please contact us at numeracy@ocdsb.ca.